Hi, and welcome to Best in Tesla. There is a country where EVs are taking over fast, and it will go extremely fast going forward, as the country has banned all import of ICE cars to the country, the first in the world. And EVs just makes sense in the country, as 96% of their electricity comes from renewable with their hydropower. No, it's not Norway I'm talking about. It is a country that looks nothing like Norway. It is Ethiopia. They have now banned all import of ICE cars and are truly all in on EVs. So, let's check it all out and let's dive right in. So, long lines have been forming at gas stations in Ethiopia's capital, Addis Ababa, amid a fuel shortage and a price spikes in the recent month, and combined with high inflation in the country as well, the price of gasoline has gone up significantly. But electric vehicle driver Michael Bielaner avoids them completely, as he said, "I no longer line up for petrol on the road." A full charge of his imported Toyota BZ4X could have made a better choice there, but anyway, a popular EV in the country is more than enough for 2 days. Bielaner, who charges his car at home, is part of a rapid transition to EVs in Addis Ababa, a fast-growing city in the Horn of Africa, at the center of Ethiopia's goal to hoist millions of people out of poverty. In addition to the polluting cars and trucks rumbling along the road, cleaner and quieter vehicles are joining the traffic. Electric buses, smaller 15-seater minibuses, cars and motorbikes are popping up on the street of the capital. The Ethiopian government estimates that the number will more than quadruple by 2032. That is largely because of the national government took the extraordinary step earlier this year to ban the import of all gasoline-powered passenger vehicles, becoming the first nation in the world to do so. They also did this because of the surge of used ICE cars to the African continent as the Western world shifted to EVs. As an expert said, demand for used cars could explode further as the take-up of electric cars in the West increased the supply of used cars to African countries. Nearly 1 of 5 vehicles sold globally this year will be electric, according to the International Energy Agency, compared to less than 5% in 2020. So the unwanted used ICE cars in the Western world is being sent to Africa. But Ethiopia's government did not want these polluting old ICE cars coming to their country no more, and banned the import of ICE cars altogether, new or old. But with the rise of EVs in Europe, China and the US, we could now see the rise in import of used electric vehicles to Ethiopia, as new EVs are still on the expensive side, but some used EVs from China and Europe could be a way for Ethiopia and other countries to get more affordable EVs to the country quicker. It also effectively slashed the custom tax on the imported cars. The tax on gas vehicles were up to 200% before the ban, while the import tax for fully assembled EVs is just 15% according to the country's finance ministry. It's part of the government's led effort to get more EVs on the street. The lower rates are also spurring more local EV manufacturing. Hundreds of vehicles are assembled by Ethiopian-based Bielaner Kindi groups using parts imported from China, of course. Beshufakat Shiwei, or something like that, manager of the company, told CNN that import tariffs are almost 0% on EV parts that are assembled in Ethiopia. Nowadays, more vehicle owners prefer EVs, especially light vehicles, he said. The demand is increasing day to day. Yes, the only thing that is missing is of course a better infrastructure and the more affordable models, but they are coming to the continent, so it is only a matter of time before we will see more affordable EVs coming from China to Africa. as BYD is already exporting cars to South Africa, the continent's biggest car market. And a 2022 report by Autotrader showed that over 70% of South Africans that reported to the poll would be interested in switching to electric if they had the option to buy an electric vehicle that cost less than 500,000 rupees, so about $27,000. So that is good news, as South Africans will now have an EV priced at $29,000 with BYD's Dolphin. That EV will now be the lowest priced BEV in South Africa. So I think we will see BYD push more affordable models to the continent, and I think their $10,000 Seagull will do very well there. And of course, Tesla's upcoming next-gen compact vehicle for $25,000 should make a nice splash into the African continent as well. And it just makes good sense for the countries in Africa to go green, as they have a lot of sunshine, but also many of the other renewable energy sources like we see in Ethiopia. Ethiopia is leading hard into EVs, in part because importing fuel is expensive, and 96% of the country's electricity comes from clean hydropower, a win-win for the country's financials and environment. They really are a clean energy country, said June Akumu, a Kenya-based program officer at the United Nations Environment Program. Why are you importing oil when you have local electricity that you can actually use for your vehicles? Exactly. And the government recognized that it had a bountiful renewable energy source in the country when it started shifting towards EVs, said Asifa Hadiz Hagos, a transportation advisor for the Ethiopian Ministry of Transport and Logistics. Yet the total ban of gas-powered car imports passed in January took many in the region by surprise. We didn't know that the government was going to fully back a total ban, Akumu said. Yes, this makes total sense for a country that can make its own renewable energy cheaply, and we already know from the countless of examples from police department in the US and of course EV owners in general know that operating an EV is much cheaper than operating an ICE car. So in the segment like premium cars, the cheapest option is already an EV. So when the people of Africa can suddenly get their hands on a more affordable model from China's EV players, I think we will see an even faster uptake of EVs in Africa, as they just make more sense when you can just charge at home on cheap renewable energy. And we have been talking before about how electric motorbikes are taking off in Africa, and they have also introduced electric buses. And Moses Ndiritu, or something like that, a Kenyan managing director of electric bus company Basigo, see EVs on the rise across the continent as some countries looks to get off oil in favor of cheaper electricity. Much more infrastructure and government subsidies are needed in many countries to get more people to go electric. But as he said to CNN, I look at electric vehicles exactly as we looked at the mobile phone market 30 years ago. When the rest of the world started adopting mobile phones, there was no infrastructure in Africa. There was a very small number of people who were connected to phones. Today, when you look at Nairobi, you can hardly find anybody without a phone. Yes, and the same will be true about EVs as well. Renewables just make sense in Africa with their hydropower and their internal sunshine. So Africa might be late to the shift to EVs, but I think it will take on like wildfire when we get more affordable EV models to the continent. It is a no-brainer for Africa with EVs and renewables. It will just take a little more time for all the technologies to get to Africa, but eventually it will. And thank you for watching. And until next time, take care out there and be nice.